students and teachers and postgraduates, everybody who's joined us in today for yet another continuing session in the PhD 101, which is Public Health Dentistry 101 National Rapid Revision Series, webinar series. Now, just a little bit about PhD 101. For the students who are new here, I think you would be pleased to know that Public Health Dentistry 101 is a platform dedicated exclusively to our specialty. Now, the unique features are, of course, we being a national level platform, you get to learn and exchange knowledge between various teachers and students. So it forms a mixed cohort of teaching and learning methods. The whole center of focus happens to be the enrichment of students. Now, public health dentistry, I think most of your students here would be finding it, commonly they come across it and they say it's dry and boring and volatile. But then trust me, students, it's just, a perspective. It's how you explore the subject and how you decipher the various parts to it. And today, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome our guest speaker for the evening, Dr. Pavitra Ravishankar. Now, a little bit about Dr. Pavitra, just to introduce to the entire audience here. Okay. So, Dr. Pavitra here, presently working as assistant professor in the Department of Public Health Dentistry at Sri Venkateshwara Dental College and Hospital, Chennai. Now, she's been working and rendering her services from 2017 onwards. Brief background into the education qualifications. Dr. Pavitra has completed her master's in public health dentistry from Ragas Dental College and BDS from Venkateshwara Dental College. So in many ways, she's come back to her alma mater for rendering her teaching experiences. Apart from this, she also holds an e-course in tobacco control from the PHFI, which is the Public Health Foundation of India, and also a postgraduate diploma in healthcare management from the Welgankar Institute of Management, Mumbai. Now, her areas of expertise happen to be tobacco cessation intervention for professionals, healthcare professionals, working as for the resource center, and also received any certificate course from Health Research Fundamentals. She has, very eminent publications in national and international journals, varying from a plethora of topics to assessing the reliability of a 13 SOC scale, and also working in areas of fluorosis mitigation, and also a very interesting study where comparing microhardness and micromorphology of enamel following fissurotomy, and so on and so forth. So it gives me immense pleasure to welcome Dr. Pavitra to our session today evening. And thank you so much, Dr. Pavitra, for taking out time and making this happen. And the topic for today, what we've going on with the ongoing sessions is atraumatic restorative treatment. So I think over to you, Pavitra. You can take it from here. Sorry. I think you can unmute yourself. Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Yancy, for the warm words of welcome. And I would like to thank Public Health Dentistry 101 for this opportunity. So good evening to all students and senior faculty members present here. So it's indeed a pleasure to be part of this online learning series. So can I start or do we wait for some more time? Dr. Denzi?
Yes. I'm sorry. Yeah, you can start the session. Yes, please.
So let's get started with today's session. A very good evening to everyone present here. So I would like to start by quoting this line from the movie Black Panther. Just because something works doesn't mean it cannot be improved. This holds good for the topic for today's discussion, atraumatic restorative treatment. Just a minute, there's some problem with my presentation.
Yeah, you can just try. Yeah.
So this line, just because something works doesn't mean that it cannot be improved, holds good for the topic today, atraumatic restorative treatment. Why so is that Even though it was an instant success during its early days of development, the propagators of this technique did not stop with that. They emphasized on researching each and every aspect of this technique, and today we are here, almost 25 to 30 years after the development of this technique, discussing about it in its fullest detail. So this is the brief headings under which we would be discussing the topic. Introduction. In the introduction, we will be discussing about what is the need for atraumatic restorative treatment, and in very brief about minimal intervention dentistry. Then we will discuss how it all started, the history of atraumatic restorative treatment, why is it called atraumatic, principles of ART, followed by ART sealants and restorations. Then we move on to the core concepts, which are the indications, contraindications, the armamentarium required, the technique for placement of an atraumatic restorative treatment, the causes for failure of ART restorations, integration into health services, and finally the conclusion. So, can any of the participants identify this person? Anyone? Probably you can leave a message in the chat box or you can raise a hand. Okay, let me tell about him. He is none other than Dr. Jo Frencken. He is an associate professor in minimal intervention dentistry at the Radboud University, Netherlands, and he is also the co-coordinator for the World Health Organization's Global Initiative on Atraumatic Restorative Treatment. As students, if we understand what he has done in relation to atraumatic restorative treatment, if we take efforts to know about his work, his life's work, then we are done learning about atraumatic restorative treatment. So extensively, he has researched about each and every aspect of it. I would like to stress on the word each and every aspect, seriously, each and every aspect, right from the material, the technique, the instruments used, what are the alternatives that can be used, what are the modalities for implementing it, what are the limitations for implementing it. Everything has been researched by Dr. Jo Frencken. So to begin, although dental caries has substantially decreased in the industrialized countries, it still remains to be a widespread problem all over the world. In spite of having improved diagnostic techniques, remineralization techniques, caries preventive protocols, in spite of all these, there is a certain group of population, like the underprivileged population or the homebound elderlies in the industrialized nation, who are not able to utilize these care available to them. Because of this reason, the dental caries progresses in such a way that we are left with no other option but to extract the teeth. In order to prevent this and to prevent the dental caries in reaching a situation where it has to be extracted, we needed a solution, or we needed a protocol to prevent extraction. And one such protocol that would help us is atraumatic restorative treatment. Atraumatic restorative treatment is a minimally invasive approach to prevent dental caries and stop its further progression. This was given by Jo Frencken in the year 2012. It not just prevents caries, it also stops its progression. So this indicates that it is both a preventive and a curative procedure. It consists of two components: sealing caries-prone pits and fissures, and restoring cavitated dentine lesions with sealant restorations. Before we proceed further discussing about ART, let us in brief discuss about minimal intervention dentistry. It consists of three aspects, which are best understanding of the disease etiology and progression, wherein it helps in the early diagnosis and prompt treatment, prevention by the patient, wherein remineralization techniques, reduction of the cariogenic bacteria can all be employed, and the most important aspect is tissue preservation treatment for cavitated lesions through the use of minimally invasive operative interventions. that is microdentistry. So this is just a pictorial representation of minimal intervention dentistry, wherein atraumatic restorative treatment is a part of it, and it is based on the three fundamental concepts: minimal intervention, minimal invasion, and minimal cavity preparation. So nothing but we are trying to preserve as much as sound tooth structure possible, and at the same time prevent the progression of dental caries. So how did it all start? It all started in Tanzania when students from a dental school were organizing an outreach oral care program, and they could not use their mobile dental chairs, their drills, and the suction devices because of lack of electricity and piped water supply. So they in turn went and reported about this to their dental school. The authorities in the dental school did a situation analysis and realized that with whatever that was available to them, they could provide oral care to that underprivileged population. So using hand instruments and zinc phosphate cement, they restored the cavitated tooth of people in the underprivileged population. Surprisingly, all the people who got restored were devoid of pain and the caries did not progress. So they started a pilot study using polycarboxylate cement instead of zinc phosphate cement. And the results of this study, this pilot study, showed that only 1 out of 28 restored teeth failed after 9 months and it was extracted. The remaining teeth were symptom-free and the patients were satisfied about the care that they received. So the results of this pilot study were presented at the scientific meeting of the Tanzanian Dental Association in 1986, and thus the minimal intervention approach was born, which was later officially known as atraumatic restorative treatment. After the pilot study, a field study was started in Tanzania using a permanent restorative material, which is nothing but the medium viscosity glass ionomer cement. The results of this study remained unpublished, even though the results were promising. The results showed that there was a high restoration retention even after 3 years. This promising result led to the clinical trial in Thailand, wherein ART was a traditional amalgam restoration were investigated. In this study, there were 2 arms. One arm consisted of children treated using ART technique, and in the other arm, children were treated using traditional amalgam restorations. After 6 months, when the researchers went back and questioned the children who were in the conventional amalgam treatment arm literally ran when they saw the investigators, thinking that they were going to be treated once again using the drills, that is the rotary instruments, whereas children in the ART group were found to be happy and asymptomatic. So the researchers of this clinical trial concluded that the children in the ART group participated happily in the investigation. All these initial efforts led to the adoption of atraumatic restorative treatment by the World Health Organization in the year 1994 on World Health Day. Later, various symposiums were conducted, and the first being in 1995 in Singapore, followed by the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th and 5th symposium at France, New Delhi, Brazil, and Venezuela. Why is this called atraumatic? When we discuss the name, the reason behind atraumatic, we need to take into consideration 2 aspects. 1, the patient aspect, and 2, the technique aspect. So first, with regard to the patient aspect, what are the reasons the patients considered it to be atraumatic? Rahimtullah et al. In the year 2000 assessed the pain aspect during treatment. He found that patients who underwent atraumatic restoration reported half the pain as those reported by patients in the rotary handpiece group. So almost people in the rotary handpiece group reported 38% of pain, whereas it was only 19% in comparison in the ART group. Similarly, when patients' acceptance of ART was assessed by McIntosh et al. In the year 2001, it was found that both children and adults responded positively to the treatment. However, this was only a subjective evaluation and a more objective evaluation was required. So later in the year 2003, patients' behavior and heart rate were assessed and found to be lower in the ART group than in the rotary handpiece group. And finally, in 2003, the need for administration of local anesthesia was investigated and found that even those children who were termed to be uncooperative in the general dentist clinic, when referred to a pediatric clinic, were managed using atraumatic restorative treatment without the requirement of administering a local anesthetic agent. The second aspect of atraumatic is in relation to the technique. So the size of the cavity. Again, Rahimtullah et al. Investigated what happens when the cavity was prepared using a rotary instrument versus a hand instrument. Here it showed that single surface cavities prepared by hand instruments were significantly smaller in size than those prepared using rotary instruments. This holds good with one of our minimally intervention principle, wherein the cavity size has to be small. And then the next aspect that was investigated was iatrogenic damage to the adjacent tooth. Studies showed that when the cavity was prepared using rotary instruments, there was inadvertent scratches caused to the adjacent tooth while preparing proximal surface caries, whereas in case of using hand instruments, even though there were some scratches caused, but these were very minimal and could not cause any further damage. So hence, all these put together led to the reason that the word atraumatic was used. The next, the principles of ART. It is based on two main principles. First, removing carious tooth using hand instrument only. Why only hand instrument? Because it is a biological approach. It allows us to preserve the sound tooth structure. It conserves the tooth, and at the same time, the size of the cavity remains very small. The next reasons are low cost of the instrument. It is easily available, reduced pain because it remains atraumatic to the patient. There is reduced anxiety because there is no use of any rotary instruments, and simplified infection control. Even at a field setting, a hot water bath or an autoclave is more than enough to sterilize these instruments. Restoring the cavity with an adhesive restorative material. Why do we need an adhesive restorative material? Because it has to bond chemically to both the enamel and the dentin. There has to be release of fluoride so that it has anti-cariogenic effect. It has to remain similar to the heart tissues so that it does not cause any inflammation to the pulp or gingiva. When we are talking about the use of hand instruments for the excavation of dental caries, there arises a question as in whether this method is efficient and sufficient. Is it enough? So in order to address these queries, studies were done by Banerjee et al. In 2000, which showed that excavation of the soft caries material using hand instrument was most effective and efficient. This study also revealed that removal of caries, even though removal of caries with a rotary instrument was quick, but it led to over preparation of the cavity. He also tested removal of caries using chemomechanical gel, and even though it provided adequate removal of the soft carious material, it was very time consuming. In relation to the sufficient amount of caries being removed, Smales and Fang et al. In 1999 proved that there was acceptable excavation of caries at the enamel dentin junction using hand instruments alone. Why this was said that is because the basic understanding of the caries process is that any active lesion can be converted into an inactive lesion just by merely cutting off the nutrition to the microorganisms or by removing the plaque biofilm. For example, early studies proved that in case of white spot lesions, just by removing, that is by mere brushing, sufficient brushing, tooth brushing, the oral, whenever the plaque biofilm was removed from the surface of the tooth, the active lesion could be converted into an inactive lesion. Similarly, hand excavation, what we try to do in case of atraumatic restorative treatment is that we remove the infected dentin and leave behind the affected dentin. Here, the infected dentin is not capable of remineralizing. whereas the affected dentin is capable of remineralizing. So, it is sufficient if the infected dentin alone is removed with the help of a hand instrument. And the advantage is that it does not cause any damage or it does not result in inadvertent removal of the affected dentin. And also, Nandanovsky et al. In 2001 reported that there was not much difference in the removal of caries tissue when both hand instruments and the chemomechanical gel was used. With chemomechanical gel, there was 94% of removal reported, while it was 89% with hand instruments. So all these studies prove that excavation of the caries using hand instruments is sufficient and at the same time efficient. ART sealants. Whenever any sealant is placed, the first thing that comes to our mind is retention of the sealant material. But in the essence of it, more than the retention, more than the mechanical properties, the biological parameters need to be assessed. A meta-analysis in the year 2012 showed that the annual failure rate of a completely lost high viscosity glass ionomer ART sealant was only 9.3%. Whereas Chen et al. In the year 2012 showed that the survival rate of an ART sealant in the occlusal surface was 78% compared to 86% for resin-based sealants. When we take the three types of GIC sealants, that is low viscosity, medium viscosity, and high viscosity GIC sealants, the high viscosity is retained better. And in comparison with resin-based sealants, obviously resin-based sealants are retained better. Even though resin-based sealants are retained better, studies revealed that the caries occurrence after loss of sealant was only 2% in GIC-based sealants, while it was 1% in resin-based sealants. These results came as a surprise to the society. Why? When this was researched by Franken et al. In the year 2014, he used SEM analysis. He did an SEM imaging of the pits and fissures, which were sealed using GIC sealants. Even though the material was lost from the occlusal surface, SEM analysis revealed that there was still some material left at the depths of the pits and fissures. This is because GIC sealants, they fracture cohesively, whereas resin-based sealants, they fracture adhesively. And like I had earlier mentioned, it is enough if we cut off the nutrition supply to the microorganisms or make it self-cleansable. Just because these resin sealants are retained at the depth of the pits and fissures, the microorganisms were not able to harbor, and at the same time, they were self-cleansable to a certain extent. So, in spite of loss of the sealant material from the occlusal surface, just because a fraction of the sealant, GIC sealant material was left behind at the depths of the pits and fissures, these pits and fissures remained caries free even after 5 to 6 years. So, when we compare the retention of GIC sealants and resin-based sealants, obviously the resin-based sealants are retained better. But just because of the reason that GIC sealants fracture cohesively and not adhesively, unlike the resin-based sealants, the caries occurrence rate at the depths of those pits and fissures which retained the GIC sealants were similar to that of resin-based sealants. So there was not much of difference when the pits and fissures were sealed using GIC sealants or resin-based sealants. ART restorations. When GIC was used as an ART restorative material, studies reported that a single surface ART restoration on a primary tooth had a survival rate of 93%, whereas that on a multiple surface of a primary teeth was 62%. However, the cumulative survival rate in a permanent teeth after 3 years was 85% and after 5 years was 80%. And when it was a multiple surface ART restoration in permanent teeth, the 1-year survival rate was 86%. In a nutshell, the ART restorations give us the following understanding. High viscosity glass ionomer can be safely placed in single surface cavities in both primary and the permanent posterior teeth. High viscosity GIC cannot be used for multiple surface cavities in primary posterior teeth, and at the same time, sufficient information is not available to conclude about ART restorations in multiple surfaces of permanent posterior teeth and in anterior teeth of both dentitions. There are various criteria that are used for evaluating the success of an ART restoration. Some of the criteria that we have are the ART criteria, FTI criteria, the USPHS, which is the United States Public Health Service criteria, and we have something newly developed which is called the CARS criteria. When all these criteria were used to assess the survival rate of ART restorations, it was found that the ART restoration criteria was much more strict and more stringent than the USPHS criteria or the FTI criteria, which led to lower survival rates being reported. Moving on to the indications and contraindications. ARTs can be placed in cavities which do not have a pulpal involvement, in cavities which are accessible to hand instruments, and in public health programs in a field setting. The contraindications are presence of swelling or fistula near the tooth, whenever there is exposure of the pulp, when the teeth has remained painful, and when the cavity is not accessible to hand instruments. The armamentarium required are a mouth mirror to retract and to reflect the light into the area, explorer to hold the cotton rolls and the pellets. Explorer to examine the soft carious lesion, a pair of tweezers to hold the cotton rolls and cotton pellets, dental hatchet to fracture the unsupported enamel, small, medium, and large size spoon excavators to scoop out the soft carious material, an applier or a carver instrument. The blunt end is used to push the GIC material into the cavity, while the sharp end is used to remove the excess material, a mixing pad, and a plastic spatula. We also require a cotton wool for isolation, pellet for cleaning cotton pellet for cleaning the cavity, clean water, the glass ionomer restorative material, which is available as a powder and a liquid form, or a capsule can be used, a measuring spoon, a dentin conditioner, petroleum jelly, wedge and plastic strip if we are attempting a multiple surface restoration, and articulating paper for checking the bite. So now the technique. If we are going to perform an atraumatic restorative treatment in a field setting, a flat surface is more than enough to support the back of the patient and the headrest. The operator has to stay at 12 o'clock position, and the maximum movement is between 1 o'clock to 10 o'clock. The first step is to isolate the tooth. Cotton rolls are used in isolation, and we have to make sure that there is 0 or nil saliva contamination. The next step is to clean the tooth surface, that is, using an explorer, remove the food and plaque present on the occlusal surfaces. Then examine the cavity, see if it is accessible. If not, use an enamel hatchet to widen the cavity. Remove the unsupported enamel. Here what happens, because of the direction of the enamel rods, the cavity tends to have a prism shape which is broader at the base and narrower near the occlusal surface. After widening the cavity, the caries, the soft caries material has to be removed using a spoon excavator. Here the direction of removal is very important. We have to start from the enamel dentine junction and go towards the base of the cavity. After all the caries material is removed, the tooth surface has to be cleaned using a wet cotton pellet, and also the occlusal surface has to be cleaned, making sure that all the pits and fissures which open into the occlusal surface of the cavity are also clean. After cleaning it using a wet cotton pellet, a dry cotton pellet is used to dry the cavity. Then conditioning the cavity. When a dentin conditioner is available, it can be used. If not, the liquid, that is the polyacrylic acid that comes along with the GIC powder, can be used for conditioning the cavity. make sure that the if it is a dentin conditioner, it is well and good. It can be used directly. If we are using the liquid that is provided with the restorative material, the concentration is slightly higher. They are about 15 to 30% polyacrylic acid, which needs to be diluted. So hence, a cotton pellet is made wet and it is dipped into the liquid that is provided in the restorative kit, and that is used to condition the cavity. The cotton pellet carrying the liquid of the GIC material is dabbed on all the surfaces of the cavity, and later it is washed using a wet cotton pellet and dried using a cotton pellet. Here, a word of caution, we are not supposed to use any other methods of drying the cavity. In a field setting, these are the only armamentarium available to us. If an ART restoration is being done at a clinical setting, we are not supposed to use a 3-way syringe because this will over dry the cavity. The next important step is manipulation of the material. Here we have to keep in mind that both the liquid and the powder has to be dispensed only prior to manipulation. A word of caution here is that we have to make sure the liquid that is dispensed from the bottle does not have any air bubbles incorporated. So at first, 1 drop has to be dispensed, and without releasing the pressure, the second drop has to be dispensed. Make sure you do not over squeeze, thereby taking out excess liquid from the bottle. Then incorporate the powder in 2 portions and manipulate the material. The final mix has to have a glossy appearance. If it appears dry, it affects the bonding of the material to the tooth cavity. Then insert the restorative material using the applier, that is the blunt end of the applier instrument, and with the finger, apply firm pressure on the tooth for 20 seconds. This is called the press finger technique. After 20 seconds, check for the bite using an articulating paper, and then remove the excess material using the carver instrument, that is the sharp end of the carver instrument. Then recheck for bite and remove the excess material using a medium-sized carver. Apply a thin layer of petroleum jelly and instruct the patient not to eat anything for next 45 minutes to 1 hour. These are the various steps that are followed while placing a atraumatic restorative treatment. Caution has to be taken while doing the procedure that we have to take efforts to avoid saliva or blood contamination. So after inserting the material and checking the bite, if required, we can remove the cotton rolls and reinsert fresh cotton rolls to ensure that the field remains free from salivary contamination. Failure of ART restorations. The reasons for failure of ART restorations. ART restorations fail for same reasons as any other restorative material. Evaluation criteria looked at the mechanical properties and the biological properties. Mechanical properties are related to the physical strength of the material and the skill of the manipulator. That is, the person who's going to perform the ART restoration, how skillful they are in manipulating the material. So the physical properties, the physical strength of the restorative material, and the manipulative skill of the operator decides the mechanical properties, whereas the biological properties are decided by how clean the cavity remains. Studies have revealed that the excavation of the carious material using hand instrument does not cause failure of ART restoration. In the initial days, it was thought that just because the carious material is removed using a hand instrument, there was microorganisms left behind and that infected tooth material was left behind. But all these were not the reasons for failure of ART restorations. Bite-wing radiographs were taken to find out whether there was caries activity beneath the restorations in 3 different methods. That is, when the restoration was given using the ART technique, using hand drilling, using rotary drilling, and using hemomechanical caries removing gel. In all these three materials, in 3 years and 6 years follow-up, it was found that there was no caries activity beneath the restoration, and the survival rate of all the restorations using all the three methods of caries excavation were similar. So what are the reasons for which the ART restorations can fail? First is the restoration is completely missing. This can happen when the mix was too thin, that is, it was too wet. Second, the unsupported enamel was left behind, which can fracture and lead to dislodgement of the restoration. And carious tooth material was left behind. It was not which means that the infected dentine was not removed completely. In all these cases, what we need to do is we need to follow the standard operating protocols. That is, make sure that the cavity is clean. If there is infected dentine left behind, scoop it out, excavate it, condition the cavity, and redo the restoration. The second reason is part of the restoration has broken away. This can happen when the restoration is too high and when there was excessive force. When the restoration was too high, what is the problem is the excess material has not been removed. So redo the restoration following the same protocols. The restoration, the third is the restoration has fractured. Management of a fractured restoration depends upon the position of the fracture line. If the fracture line runs through the restoration and one of the fractured fragment can be dislodged completely, we can redo the restoration. But if the fractured portion is not dislodged, if it's just the fracture line, re-restoration using ART technique is not possible, and we have to go for conventional restorative procedures. The restoration has worn away, that is, part of the restoration is missing. These happens in cases where the patient bites very hard or the patient has the habit of grinding very deep. In such cases, the cavity has to be re-examined, clean it well, and refill the deficient material and complete the restoration. And the last is caries development adjacent to the pits and fissures wherein the ART restoration has been given. Follow the same protocols. Scoop out the soft carious material, condition the cavity, and restore it using GIC cement. Factors that affect the success rate of ART restorations. A recent systematic review and meta-analysis conducted in the year 2020 has shown that operator and placement of calcium hydroxide were two significant factors that were associated with a higher success rate of ART restoration. However, factors like restorative material, setting of the material, and moisture control were not significantly associated with the success of the ART restorative. Now, when a single factor meta-regression was carried out, it was shown that operator, the dentition, and the type of restoration, these three factors were positively, that is, they were significantly associated with the success rate of ART restoration. When this was further included in a multiple factor meta-regression, the dentition, the significance of dentition was lost, and only operator and type of restoration was significantly associated with the success rate of ART restorations. So results from this study show that when it is a single surface restoration given by a dentist, the success rate is 81%, while it is given by a student or a therapist, the success rate is 68%. In case of multiple surface restorations, the success rate is 69% when the restoration is given by a dentist, and it is 56% when it is given by a therapist. From these results, we can understand that single surface restorations have a higher success rate than the multiple surface restorations. So the points that we need to keep in mind are that the operator and the type of restoration, whether it is single surface or multiple surface, determines the success rate of an ART restoration. So to put it in a single statement, single surface restorations given by a dentist have maximum success rate. So the point that we need to take from here is that Proper training is required for the placement of an ART restoration. Integration into oral health services. All these years of research and investigation has proven that ART restorations have a potential for improving the oral health care of the underserved population. So how do we integrate it into the oral health services? Efforts taken by Dr. Jo Frencken led to the incorporation of ART into what is called as BPOC, Basic Package of Oral Care. Basic Package of Oral Care consists of three components, which is OUT, Oral Urgent Treatment, ART, that is the Atraumatic Restorative Treatment, and AFT, Affordable Fluoride Treatment. The advantage of BPOC is that it can be implemented in the existing framework of primary healthcare. Studies were conducted even for integration of ART into the oral health services. As early as 1998, an ART course was organized in Mexico, followed which a complete course was carried out, which led to placement of 2 million ART restorations within 6 years and 810 dentists getting trained in the ART technique. Peru started a comprehensive oral health project in schools wherein atraumatic restorations were given for the children, and later it was incorporated into their national oral health program. In Chile, an integrated clinical oral health guide for 6-year-old children was started, which used the ART restorative technique along with health education and other health promotion activities to maintain their oral health. Frencken et al. Also investigated factors that limited the integration of ART into oral health services. So in Latin American countries, a study was carried out to find out what were the limiting factors for incorporating ART technique into oral health services. Participants, that is dentists who participated in the study, reported that increased patient load or case load led to not using ART technique at their clinics. They reported that whenever there was an increased case load, it was easier to perform an extraction rather than doing an atraumatic restorative treatment. They also reported that adequate training was required in placing an atraumatic restorative treatment, continuous availability of quality restorative materials, and availability of quality hand instruments were the limiting factors in integration of ART technique into oral health services. So to conclude, ART approach has become a major asset in global oral health. It has risen to its current position because of the efforts of its early propagators. It has catalyzed the way in which we think about global oral health care, and it stands as a reliable caries management approach. However, the application of ART without paying attention to non-operative aspects of caries management would mean work half done. So, atraumatic restorative treatment has to be used along with health education, diet counseling, pit and fissure sealants, and optimal fluoride application. It is definitely not a compromise, but rather a perfect alternate for managing the oral healthcare needs of the underserved population and for the homebound elderly in industrialized nations. Health promotion through prevention is an essential foundation of oral care, and atraumatic restorative treatment is a very important cornerstone in the building of global oral health. It is a breakthrough in achieving the goal of teeth for life, that is, all people to maintain as many teeth as possible in their lifetime. These are my references. I would suggest that these first 3 articles are a must read for all postgraduates, which gives a comprehensive information about atraumatic restorative treatment, what has been done right from the early 1980s till date. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pavitra. I think that was a very, very comprehensive, but also concise at the same time. When we often discuss about ART, I think there are just a few core aspects of this treatment modality which have to be implemented and rather used efficiently. And when we talk about dental public health program students, when we look at the widespread feasibility, the whole nature of this treatment being atraumatic and being very feasible and affordable, and primarily born out of the lack of access, has actually made it all the more importance in the field of dental public health programs. So I think that was a very nicely, concise presentation for our students today. Okay, so moving on, I think we do have a couple of MCQs for students here. I think just to get you all working, we can ask questions, if any. Please feel free to raise your hand or mention in the chat box. Yes, Dr. Deepak? Yeah, Dr. Deepak has a question, I believe. Yeah.
Very good evening, sir and ma'am. Ma'am, I have a question pertaining to the technique. The first is about, you mentioned about the direction of the enamel, and the second is the bubbles that while you are dispensing the polyacrylic acid liquid. The third is is there any post restoration instructions after the ART technique?
Yes. What is it that you want to know about the enamel rods?
It's like the direction you mentioned about, like while removing, you said it like they're like you are starting from the DEJ.
Yes. See, what happens is, why I mentioned, no, see, these are two different aspects. When you remove the soft caries material, you have to start from the enamel dentin junction and go towards the base of the cavity, because that is easier. Practically, that is easier for you to scoop out the caries, one reason. And the direction of the rods are aligned in such a way that when you do that, what happens is you can remove most of the caries material. And also, yet another reason is this will lead to the undermined enamel also being fractured in the due process. If that does not happen, we will have to use a hatchet to remove the undermined enamel. This was one. Then when dispensing the liquid, the first drop that is dispensed is used to condition the cavity, because at times it can have air bubbles incorporated in it. When a liquid drop which has air bubble incorporated in it, the manipulation is compromised. So we might not have a good, well manipulated GIC to do the restoration. And the instruction is just apply petroleum jelly and ask the patient not to eat anything for next 45 minutes to 1 hour, just to allow it to set. And the whole aspect of giving a petroleum jelly is to avoid salivary contamination.
Ma'am, what about the instruction, the post, after the restoration has been given to the patient? Is there any post instructions that have been given?
Yeah, just that you tell the patient not to eat anything for next 45 minutes to 1 hour. And other than this, there are no major instructions to be given.
One more question, ma'am. If you're like conditioning the dentine, is there any role of bubble like incorporating into it? Like if you're like conditioning it with polyacrylic acid?
That's not a problem. When you're conditioning it, incorporation of bubbles is not going to be an issue, because the polyacrylic acids are concentrated. The whole aspect of using a wet cotton pellet to condition the cavity is to dilute the material. So when you're going to use a wet pellet, there is no problem of air bubble getting incorporated when you are conditioning the cavity. We have to take precaution that air bubble does not get incorporated in the liquid drop, which is used for manipulating the material.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so that was Dr. Deepak. I think the query has been answered. Moving on, I think Dr. Sahara has a question. What is the ideal survival rate of ART? Yes, Dr. Paul. 3 years or 5 years, and about the survival.
3 years. Yeah, that depends upon your comparison. You compare it with amalgam restorations. 3 years is better for ART, but when it goes for 5 years, amalgam restorations do better than ART. But in general, studies show that when a properly followed technique is used, the survival rate is better up to 5 years. One of the studies that I quoted shows a survival rate of 86% for 5 years.
5 years.
So the technique is the trick here. We have to be very specific, though it might look very simple, just scoop out the caries, give an adhesive restorative material. It sounds simple, but we have to be very careful when we do it.
Absolutely. I think that lies the key for the success of the restoration. And like Pavitra mentioned, there have been enough amount of evidence, so you would need to do that. All right. So I think we have another question here, Dr. Salim. How would you take care of the high points after restoration?
Yeah, high points after restoration, if you had noted, I would have said that after you use the press finger technique, you use an articulating paper to check for the bite. So here, the whole idea of using a press finger technique is two. One, we push the material deep inside the cavity, and two, because of the pressure that is being given by our finger, the excess material already flows out. And one more point that I want to stress here is, when you remove your finger, it has to be in the sideways direction. That is, all the excess material comes towards the side of the cavity. So when you remove your finger, it has to be in the sideways direction. And when you check for occlusion, place an articulating paper, the high points will be seen, and all the high points can be removed using a medium-sized carver. Please don't use a rotary instrument. That is not advised. Even if it's done in a clinical setting, use of rotary instrument is not advised for removing the high points. Use a medium-sized carver to reduce the high points, because the material would not have set completely. So if you're going to use a rotary instrument, you're going to compromise the strength of the material.
Okay. Any more questions from the students here? I think Dr. Deepak raised his hand again. Yes, Deepak, go ahead.
I also wanted to ask, what is the time period for which the fluoride is released by the GIC?
It is sustained release. It's for a period of time. That is one of the advantages of using GIC. It is a sustained release. That is the success of all GIC restorations.
Ma'am, can you give a figure, like for how many years it will be released?
Studies don't quantify the time. Exactly, okay. Studies don't quantify the time because there are various factors involved in it. See, if the bulk of the material is remaining there, the release is better. But if the material bulk is lost, again, the release of fluoride is compromised.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, just adding in there, I think the release of fluoride, the sustained release, is again directly proportional to the longevity of the restoration and the factors involved in it. Okay, any other questions, students? If you all have, please do let us know here. Meanwhile, I think I have a couple of MCQs. Yes, Dr. Pavitra, I think let's just check how much have they understood, and let's see. Okay, I think we can have some activity in the chat box to begin with. Okay, now let's see how many of you know this. Okay, in which year was atraumatic restorative being a part of the theme in the World Health Day themes? We have themes every year. Quickly, I think if you could let us know in the chat box. I think students, you can try answering here. Meanwhile, if anybody else has a question, also do let us know. You can post the answers here. Is it 1990, 92, 94, or 96? Okay. I think we'll just let the students answer the question here. We have Dr. Puranik sir with us. Again, someone, sir has been witnessing this method from a quite long time. Yes. Good evening, Puranik sir.
Good evening, Dr. Nancy. Good evening, Dr. Pavitra.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
It was a very excellent presentation.
Thank you so much.
If I am allowed to borrow some words from your lecture, it was efficient as well as sufficient.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
So you covered a lot of aspects.
Sir, for this presentation, I have to thank you. I had the opportunity to attend the 25 years of ART workshop that you conducted in 2014. I was a first-year postgraduate student at that time. So I had the opportunity to attend and meet Dr. Jo Franken, actually. So thanks to you and your team for this. So if I'm able to give so many details today about the topic, thanks to you, sir.
Yeah, nothing like seeing Jo Franken live.
Correct. In fact,
in 2014.
I think 2014, correct, sir. I think Pavitra was in first year and I was in second year post-graduation. And we had the opportunity to work in for the workshop in GDC. So I think learning from the pioneer itself, very very little and minute things. Even I remember Dr. Franken telling us the how to be careful while mixing the GIC and how to. I mean, all these little things, but it does matter because invariably they have an influence on the survival rate, the longevity, and the impactfulness of the restoration. Okay. All right. So thank you so much, Dr. Puranik sir, for chipping in with your remarks as well. Okay. So, okay, most of them say 1994. Okay. Is there a specific reason, guys? Why do you say it's 1994? I think if I could have some responses before I go into the next MCQ for the day. If one of them answers and then everybody else answers the same, that's also called social desirability bias. So don't fall in for that trap. So guys, this is actually a very tricky question. Most of them don't get this right, and I can see going by that. Okay. Because 1994 happens to be the year of the oral health, right? When WHO declared oral health for this thing. But just to give you a clarification on this, it was the year 1992. Okay, so that was the year when ART, because a lot of evidence was done, a lot of trials had started from 1980 onwards, and gradually we could notice. So there was a lot of evidence and presence of literature. So the World Health Organization actually took notice to this much earlier than the rest of the details. Okay. I have another question, which is I'm just posting in the chat box here. Okay. Absolute contraindication. Okay. In which of these situations? Okay. Quickly, the options are presence of a swelling or a fistula near the caries tooth, or if there's caries approaching the pulp, but pulp is not exposed, no pain, and when there's an obvious caries cavity. Go on quickly, guys. Okay, pretty much simple. I think this everybody is getting this right. Okay, I'm supposing most your students are also here, right, Pavitra? I think most of your students from your class as well are here. Okay.
Yeah, I think my final year students are here.
Final year. Okay.
A lot of familiar names.
Okay, so of course, the first option is the right answer. So whenever there is, presence of a swelling or a fistula near the caries tooth, it's an absolute contraindication. Again, remember the words absolute and relative. Okay, make sure you do that distinction and get this clear. Okay, so we have another question. Let me just put it here. Okay. The small spoon excavator in ART, it's got a specific function. Let's see how many of you know this. All right. Okay. Small spoon excavator in ART is used for which of the following? Cleaning the enamel dentine junction, removal of soft caries lesions, excess GIC, or the last option being to take the GIC to the cavity. This is again a tricky question. Okay, let's have some discussion here. Let's see. Most of them think it's B. Okay. We do have some of them saying option C. Okay, removal of excess GIC. Okay. Nobody for A and D. Yes, Pavitra, I think we can have you on this question. What do you think about this? Didn't expect this one. No, I'll
Yeah.
I mean, just to see how much of them. Okay. Anybody else here? Okay, let's see. We've got most of the responses. Okay. Now, technically, spoon excavator, as we all know it, is for removal of the caries lesions, right? But in this case, there was an improvisation, and this is from one of the trials which was published. And you notice the small spoon excavator was actually used to clean the enamel in the dentine junction. Okay, so it was sort of an improvisation which was done, and it was mentioned in one of the compendiums, and accordingly. Okay, so the answer is A, cleaning the enamel dentine junction. Okay, so let's have another question. Are you guys finding this interesting? Yes, give me a thumbs up in the chat box if you want to get more questions here. Okay, all right. Okay, excellent. Okay, so we are having our own KBC here for ART. All right, which of the following cannot result in a failure of an ART restoration? Okay, so I'm going to give you some options here, which is not the reason for ART restorations to fail. Okay, is it contamination with saliva, blood, application of dentine conditioners after preparing the cavity, mixing material too wet or dry, or not having all the soft caries lesions removed? Please read the options carefully. Yeah, I'm starting to sound like mutual funds are subject to market risk. Please read the offer document carefully before investing. Okay. If there's any finalists here, remember guys, entrance exam questions, okay, these are. So this is really, really valuable for y'all. Okay. Trishani says option B. Okay. When you come to the success of ART restorations, right, a lot of it depends on the technique sensitivity. Okay, so cannot result in the failure of ART restorations. In this case, has to be option B. Okay, application of the dentine conditioner after preparing the cavity. Okay, so that's all the obvious reasons. Okay, let's quickly go to one last clinical question based on the clinical consideration. Okay, and this is your question. All right. An important aspect for the success of ART is control of saliva, patient positioning, assistant, or oral hygiene. Come on, fastest finger first, guys. Okay, Ronald says D, Bhavna says A. Quickly. Let's see. Okay, I think I'll just tell you the answer there. Of course, important aspect, contamination, right? So you have to make sure your saliva flow is controlled. That's one of the penultimate. In fact, they say in the clinical success of restoration, and this holds good for this and becomes more important in ART here, is your option A, control of saliva. Okay. So I think that was a little bit of questions to intrigue all of your minds, and I'll quickly like to request Dr. Pavitra to give us a take-home message, overview, a summary of the topic, and just give us what are the main questions which are important from the exam point of view and this regard. Yes, Pavitra.
Yeah. To summarize, the two important aspects of ART is removal of the caries lesion using a hand instrument and restoring it using a adhesive restorative material. So that is GIC. And the 3M that we have to remember: minimal intervention, minimal invasion, and minimal cavity preparation. And for the postgraduates, please know your Franken et al. That's more than enough to quote in all your answers. That's more than enough, sufficient enough. Know the survival rates. And one more thing that I wanted to add regarding the cost effectiveness ratio, particularly for postgraduates, if any of you are here, there is a recent study by Dr. Rachna et al., which was published in the year 2021, which says that the cost effectiveness ratio for ART was amalgam. They have compared ART and amalgam restorations, and the cost effectiveness ratio is less for ART, and also the survival rate is similar in both. So survival rate is all the same. The cost effectiveness ratio is 1, so ART performs better. And one more add-on point: even though we have all these chemomechanical caries removal gels like PapaCare, KeriCare, KeriSolve, KeriDes, and all that, they are all time consuming and they are costly. So when you talk about using an atraumatic restorative treatment for an underprivileged population, the best is to do hand excavation and restore it using GIC restorative material. So it's a simple procedure, but I would say it is technique sensitive, but done properly, it has a lot of potential to prevent a teeth from being extracted. Really, it's teeth for life. It's a technique for teeth for life. So thank you. I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Denzi and Public Health Dentistry 101 for having given me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pavitra. I think that was a splendid way how you actually put everything together and summarized. So we have to understand here that ART by no means is an compromise, again, given the conditions, the way it is done, how it is carried forward, and then eventually delivered. So it is fairly good enough and really sufficiently posted when you look at this kind of utilities. And the last bit which Pavitra just mentioned, again, cost effectiveness becomes very important here in public health studies, right? Because if you want to implement this in national programs to appraise the policymakers, we will have to give this kind of information and give it reason beyond doubt and tell that how this would be really helpful. So when it comes to the cost factors, absolutely yes, cost effective evaluation is also very important. Okay, so I'd like to just thank Dr. Pavitra for doing this session for today, and a small of appreciation. Yeah, I think Dr. Pavitra for delivering this lecture for us today, and PhD 101 is really indebted for this moment of think. Okay, I think for rest of the students, I'd just like to mention that if you'd like to get today's presentation, we'll be sharing it, okay? And we do have a learning group which is made exclusively for this. So we do share the notifications of the webinars, and every Wednesday we have academic sessions, and also we have special sessions. And especially this week is coincides with the National Public Health Dentistry Day, which is on 19th. We are extremely happy to announce that we'll be having our association Honorable Secretary Sir, Dr. Vamshi Reddy Sir, for a rendezvous session. So on Saturday evening, 6 o'clock, we are having a chat session with Dr. Vamshi Sir. So he shall be talking about the evolution on how the specialty has developed over the years. And as most of you are familiar in your respective colleges, a lot of exciting activities are happening, quiz competitions and meme competitions and submissions and all of that. So make the most out of it, guys, and wherever you are, in whichever part of the country, colleges. So this is important, especially COVID times. It's really important to pull yourselves up and to keep the learning curve going in that direction. Okay, so thank you all so much. I've posted the link to our group in the chat box. You can feel free and get in and chip into that. And I think if we're done, I think I have a small, any closing remarks, Pavitra, I think, before I wind up the session?
Done. Thank you.
That is it? Okay, fine. So I have a small motivational video, I think, from one of the really inspirational models, who's ever lived in our country, from Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, sir. I think a very inspiring speech where he defines the 4 rules to success. So I think we can all end with this, watching this video, and wrap up for today.
Know how to handle. We should know how to handle, not only how to handle the success, how to handle the failures. Particularly you are in the management environment, I want the young people to understand how to manage the failure. Because any task you do, you have to come across problem. Problem should not become the captain of the individual or the project chief. The project chief should become the captain of the problems and defeat the problem and succeed. Learning gives creativity. Creativity leads to thinking. Thinking provides knowledge. Knowledge makes you great. History has proven that those who dare to imagine the impossible are the ones who break all the human limitations. In every field of human endeavor, whether science, medicine, sports, arts or technology. The names of the people who imagined the impossible are engraved in our history. By breaking the limits of their imagination, they change the world. You take C.V. Raman, you take Newton, you take Einstein, you take Chandrasekhar. By breaking the limits of their imagination, they change the world. If you want to be discoverers, if you want to be innovators, I am going to give you what type of characteristic you must have. Invention and discoveries have emanated from creative minds that have been constantly working and imagining the outcome. The telephone, he was imagining the outcome in the mind. With imaging and constant effort, all the forces of the universe work for that inspired mind, thereby leading to invention discoveries.
Sir, I would like to hear from you a few tips for the upcoming generation to succeed in life.
Well, succeeding in life, I have already told you.
Yes, sir.
You have to do 4 things, okay? Number 1, great aim.
Great aim.
I will have great aim.
I will have great aim.
I will
continuously
acquire knowledge. I will do hard work.
I will do hard work.
I will persevere.
And
succeed. Okay, that's the mantra.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
You have many accomplishments. You've written books. You've served as president. You're an aerospace engineer. You've been a professor. But you say the title you like best is the title of teacher. Why is that?
You know, I had a teacher when I was a young boy, 10 years boy, wartime, the Second World War going on. At that time, I used to see in my class, 5th class teacher, in science teacher, he entered the classroom and we used to see the radiation of knowledge from him. When he enters the classroom, my teacher, I see a radiation of purity of life. And the way he taught, my dream got shaped. What should be my way of life? He is the person, the teacher gave me the vision of my life when I was a young fellow. Now teacher has got a fantastic opportunity to grow minds, to enrich the minds and give the dreams to the young people and nurture the dreams with them, and they will become a great human being. Sometime they will become better than you, but better than the teacher. So that opportunity you have. I will have great aim. I will continuously acquire knowledge. I will do hard work. I will persevere and succeed.
All right, guys. So that was a wrap on today's session. Again, thank you so much, Dr. Pavitra, for doing this for us and for highlighting such an important topic, which is atraumatic restorative treatment and various aspects of minimal intervention dentistry. Thank you all so much, participants, for logging in and attending the session. Like I said, we have regular academic sessions every Wednesday. So next Wednesday, again, evening at the same time, we'll be having another topic from focusing for the undergraduate and the postgraduate students. And over the weekend, of course, since it happens to be Public Health Dentistry Day, on Saturday, we have a special rendezvous series. So thank you so much, everybody. See you all soon. Stay home, stay connected, and see you. Thank you, Pavitra, and thank you, everybody. All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.